Okay, we're now looking at Phase 2 in Chapter 10. I'm on page 652 in the textbook. And the actual first instructions begin over on page 655. And first thing we need to do is, let me see, go to our add member and go to the review tab and then go to the changes group here in Unprotected, and we need type in awareness, and now we've unprotected it. And we want to go to the developer tab here and click the insert button here, and what I want is I want the command button under the ActiveX controls group. That's this one right here, and the mouse turns into crosshairs, and what I need to do is go and draw a large rectangle here, and that's where my button's going to go. And then we're going to set the properties of the button, and click on the properties tab up here. The properties appear over here on the right, and the first thing we want to change is we want to change the caption on the button. So just click there, back up over it, and I want the caption to read add member data. I also want to change the fore color. Click on the palette, and I want green. And I want to change the font. I want to make it bold and 14. So click on the three dots here, and bold, 14 points. Okay, and now my button looks like that. And now we can see everything on here, and what we need to do next is we're going to create a macro from scratch. Chances are you will never do this. If you need macros, most of the time people record them. The only way you'll ever end up writing a macro on your own is if you end up having so much fun in this class that you decide you want to get a major in computer science, and maybe then you'll write some macros. But most people, most end users, do not write their own macros from scratch. But the instructions that need to be put in are on page 659, and I'm going to close the properties window here, and we're going to go to add member data here and double click on it. The only reason for putting a button here is to have a macro get executed. So when you double click on it, it automatically opens up a macro window for you, and you see the name of it is command button 1, which is the name of that button that we just put in, and click. So this is what happens whenever command button 1 gets clicked on with the mouse. And what we need to do here is we need to type in all that stuff that's on page 559, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause here for a minute, type that stuff in, and when I'm done, we'll start up recording again. Okay, I'm back. Now, this stuff, when you type this stuff in, this can be very frustrating, because if you make one typo, it does not work. So it's really worth the time to double check everything that you type in here and make sure you type it exactly the way it is in the book. Now you may notice I did one thing differently. On this line here that ends with skip blanks, they've got an underscore and they've got it continued on the next line. The only reason they did that was just because they ran out of room, and if you can't finish an instruction on a line, you have to put an underscore on the end of that line. And I'm not sure that it matters, but if you notice on page 659 there is a space between the word skip blanks and the underscore. You don't have to do that, though. You can put everything on one line. If you do that, the underscore is not necessary. So that's why mine looks a little bit different from theirs. Otherwise, everything should look exactly the same. Okay, and we are now on the top of page 662. We want to close this. We've typed in our Visual Basic instructions for the macro. And I want to turn off design mode, which takes the handles away. and now I'm back in normal mode, and I'm going to start using this button here. Okay, so click on it. It immediately begins executing the macro, and the first thing in the macro was to display an input box up there, which it's done. This is an input box. The caption, remember, was enter. The prompt is last name. Those are both things that you typed in. OK and cancel are what you get by default. The text box down here is what you get by default. And I'm going to type in the name and hit enter, which is the same as clicking on OK. And the first name is Jane, and the address is 24 Park Avenue. The city is Brooklyn, the state is Nebraska, and the zip code is 68562. And if we go to our all members worksheet now, we see that Jane has been added to the end of that list. Now your list should look different because there's an earlier step here where you're supposed to take all of this data that you converted into a first name and a last name, and you're supposed to paste it in over here. And I don't have that in my workbook. I did it earlier on another workbook. So mine is just going to appear at the bottom of my list. Yours should appear at the bottom of your list. And then let's go back to add member data. We're going to click on the button again. And we have to add another person here. We have to add Weber, Jason, 438, Leonard Drive, Plainville, Nebraska, 68599. Okay, and if we flip back over here, Jason is now on the bottom of that list as well. And so when we get done entering that macro and testing it a few times, we want to go back to the review tab here, and we want to go to Protect Sheet here, and the password again is going to be awareness. And just like any password, you better type it twice because you can't see what you're typing. And then save the workbook and close the window. So we'll stop there.